Good evening, book lovers. Welcome to another episode of Cath-Lit Live. I am your host, Amy Cattapan. You can find me everywhere on social media under the pen name for my children's books. So that's AJ Cattapan. I am bringing you an interview with a debut author today who I've known for a few years. We met at some Catholic writers conferences. And so I'm happy to have her come on tonight. Her name is Ms. Ocampo. Ms. Ocampo is a Filipina American young adult urban fantasy writer who lives in Houston, Texas. She is a self-proclaimed professional fangirl who loves Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Taylor Swift, Broadway musicals, and lots of other things. Her debut novel is My Ex is a Vampire. So please help me welcome to the show, Ms. Ocampo.
Hello.
Hey, or Ms. Ocampo. I read your bio as Ms. Ocampo. I've known you for a number of years as Monique. How are you?
I'm doing well, Amy. Thank you.
Welcome to Cath-Lit Live. I'm excited to have you on to talk about your debut novel, My Ex is a Vampire. So why don't you kick things off by sharing what the book is about?
Well, I'm just going to read the back of my book, the blurb, if you will. Relationships bite. Jane Dela Cruz's life is anything but normal. By day, she's your average honor student, the girl next door who's dating the guy on the football team. By night, she hunts vampires with her family. She hates what she's been called to do, the gifts she inherited from her family bloodline. At the same time, she craves revenge and closure for past emotional scars. Andy Santiago is the new kid in the swanky suburb of Sugar Land, Texas. Haunted by nightmares of red eyes and fangs, he hunts down vampires and attracts his share of trouble along the way. He keeps his life of vampire hunting a secret from his mother and finds himself in hot water when he finds out his new girlfriend is a fangirl for romantic vampires, which only exist in fiction. When Jane's boyfriend and Andy's girlfriend get taken by the local vampire court and turned into vampires, they have to team up and figure out how to take down their exes. What they don't realize is that they will unravel a darker conspiracy that will change their lives forever.
Ooh, all right. I love it. Ooh, and that's a great cover. All
Thank
right.
you.
So Monique, you and I have talked about this rise, almost a rise of vampire, especially young adult vampire novels in the Catholic world, which might seem incongruous to some people, but can you talk about how maybe your Catholicism informed your writing of a young adult vampire novel?
Well, for me, it was a mix of Catholicism, Filipino culture, and my love for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. For the Catholic element, it feels, well, for one thing, like we can trace the roots honestly back to Dracula, because while the author of that book is Protestant, he used Catholic elements in terms of, defeating Dracula. The Eucharist is used to protect Mina, and Mina is essentially the virtuous heroine who helped, because it actually bucks Victorian values a bit, because the men decide to keep the information about Dracula secret from Mina, they put her in danger. If they actually informed her about how to watch out for Dracula, she could have been safe from him. It's about Mina and the others working together to defeat Dracula. And there's, it may not be Catholic, say blatantly, but it's Catholic thematically.
Okay. What do you hope Catholics then get out of your novel? What could they take away from it?
Well, I will establish a warning that the book is PG-13. My characters are real teenagers. Even though they go to a Catholic school, they still act like normal, everyday teenagers. Andy, for example, cusses in a foreign language. He's Filipino and he speaks in one of the languages from the Philippines called Bisaya. So he cusses in that particular language because he has the freedom to do that. He's a bit of a punk. Teenagers there can be messy. They have very strong feelings. They have, they feel like the weight of the world is on their shoulders, especially like I'm kind of just thinking about Jane in that aspect.
Yeah.
And that's why they express their feelings, sometimes not in a very like colorful ways.
Yeah. So what would they get out of it then? If that's your kind of warning, what's the upside?
Well, the upside is like, you get to learn a lot about like Filipino culture. I
Mm.
integrate a lot of stuff about Filipino culture into this book. Like I talk about the food and the celebrations that Filipinos do, like for the holidays, especially like Christmas, for example. I have a scene where Jane makes a Christmas lantern, which Filipinos call a parol. It's like a star-shaped lantern, sometimes with a circle around it, and it hangs on
Okay.
the doorstep. And there's also a tradition of filling out something called a balikbayan box, which is this giant box that Filipinos send to their relatives over in the Philippines. Although in this case, it's assembled for charity to like poor kids in the Philippines in need.
Okay, great. I love how you're fitting your culture in with that. So,
Yeah, because there's a lot of overlap between Catholicism and Filipino culture because
yeah.
Catholicism became integrated with Filipino culture from colonization. And something that
Mm.
I've learned is that, in spite of the colonization, there's a lot of, like I said, there's the overlap. My characters, for example, use metals that use saint metals to protect
Mhm.
themselves, and that actually ties into a Filipino tradition. I forgot the word, but it ties into something from Filipino tradition to use metals for protection.
Nice. Okay, speaking of saints, I hear you have sort of a patron saint for this
Yeah,
book. Tell us about who that is.
she is both Jane's patron saint and the patron saint of this book, Saint Catherine of Siena. And I
Mm.
was inspired by the idea that Saint Catherine of Siena wanted to stand at the gates of hell.
Mm.
You know, it's kind of similar to Buffy standing at the Hellmouth and constantly fighting evil on top of the Hellmouth in Sunnydale. There's a
Okay.
parallel. And,
Okay.
just Saint Catherine being this force against evil in general.
Nice. I love it. Okay. So if people are intrigued, maybe they love vampires, maybe they're fellow Buffy fans, or maybe they just want to see how you fit this all together with the Filipino culture and your
Hmm.
Catholicism. Where can they find My Ex is a Vampire and where can they learn more about you?
There's the paperback and ebook version on Amazon, but if they don't support Amazon, I also have the ebook version on a website called Itch.
Okay.
A lot of indie authors place their books for sale on there, and I'm actually, well, there is a submarine bundle, but it's not a completely Catholic one. So if they're interested in like, they would have to like do their own research on the submarine bundle.
Okay.
I might not share the link, but I'm just saying like I'm also part of that because
Okay.
I wanted it's with other writers of like horror and fantasy and sci-fi that have like Summerween vibes. And Summerween, for those who don't know, the is sort of like Halloween in summer, sort of like Christmas in
Ah,
July. It
okay.
kind of
Got it.
comes from an episode of a show called Gravity Falls on Disney, where like they have a Halloween episode in the middle of their summer show. So
Well,
it's
and why not? People do Christmas in July, so why
yeah.
not? Why
And
not
and the reason why
Halloween in
my book
summer?
has Summerween vibes is because there's like it takes place in Texas where it's basically summer most of the time anyway. Even in like the fall or in the colder seasons, it's not going to feel like there's never going to be snow, you
Yeah,
know?
doesn't
And my
feel
book
like winter.
and my book ends in the springtime,
Mhm.
just as the school year is about to end. I feel like what people might get out of my book is a lot of action and comedy and, a lot of emotional empathy with the characters. You
Mm.
understand what my characters are dealing with. Jane's anxiety and Andy's sense of responsibility. Underneath his, troublemaker exterior, he's actually a family guy at heart. He loves his mom. He will do anything to protect his
Mm.
family. And you also have other side characters like Gabby and Susie, who will become main characters in later books, because this is the first book in a series.
All
Then
right.
the next thing I'm working on, if anyone would be interested in that, is called Drama of the Undead, and it's inspired by Phantom of the Opera because it's a murder mystery that takes place in a theater.
Ah, great. I love it. All right. So, people should come and find you online. I know you're on Instagram, right?
I'm also on Blue Sky. Those are my two main
Okay.
platforms. Instagram, I would recommend for, just updates about my book and for like other opinions on general everything. I also have a Facebook page.
Okay.
And I usually just post book updates on there. I'm mostly active on Blue Sky, but I talk about my other projects on there. I'm working on a project that's a bit more unconventional and not targeted towards the Catholic audience. It's a romantic comedy with an older protagonist that's not young adult, and it's about a wedding.
All
It's
right.
very much inspired by all these wedding rom-coms. And
Yes.
when I the what really inspired it is when I actually went to my cousin's wedding, and I'm older than my cousin who was getting married.
Real life often inspires us. Well, thank you, Monique, for coming on and talking about your debut novel. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, Monique. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So if this seems like something that's up your alley, please go ahead and check out My Ex is a Vampire. If you're interested in some of those other books that are Catholic books and have vampires in them, or if you've read some of them, let us know in the comments. I'll get back to you. In fact, I interviewed one of those authors last year, Sister Allison, about her young adult vampire book. So it really does seem to be a little bit of a trend that's been going on recently. So as always, make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, I'm going to wish you happy reading.